Hello and welcome back to the View from the Bullens. It's the final whistle today, so we're going to be discussing a few topics. Obviously, the Man City result, and in all, overall, a good weekend for Everton. But here with me, Luke Davis, Lee McLean, and Paul Draper. So I'll come to you first, Lee. So, not much to unpack really from the City game, but just what's your initial thoughts?
I don't think anyone truly expected anything different. In all fairness, Man City operates in a different league, different sport almost to Everton in a lot of ways. With the money that they're able to spend, the bench that they had, a lot's been talked about that. One player on the bench costs the entire total of our team. It's very unrealistic to go to Man City and expect to come away with anything. If you do, it's a bonus. That's what we said last week. That being said, I think Everton acquitted themselves really well. I thought we were well set up, well organised. Not many teams are going to limit City to 0 shots on target in one half of football. I think it was like 60 minutes, something like that. So we're doing a lot of things right. Obviously, the main theme coming out of the game again is our lack of sort of threat and a little bit of a lack of quality in the final third, which has been hampering us for a little bit of a while now. But it's tough, like when you come up against elite defenders like John Stones, Akanji, the rest of them, Diaz. They're very, very difficult. You imagine not just Dominic Calvert-Lewin, any striker's going to have a difficult day up against those. So Everton always had the work cut out. But listen, as it turns out, it's not been a bad weekend. I think that result, it's not going to raise too many eyebrows. All we could have asked for is for everything else outside of our fixture to go our way, and pretty much it did. So it's a case now of taking the positives from that game, and there were a lot of positives. And if we can apply ourselves like that against teams who aren't Man City, i.e. Crystal Palace next week, then we'll do all right. We just need to start being a little bit more clinical. But you're going to get more chances against teams that aren't Man City.
Yeah. Is there any positives you think just solely based off the performance?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of positives to take from Everton. I think, obviously, Man City had their first shot on target in the 71st minute, came with their first goal. Is it a corner? Is it a goal kick? I'm not sure it's a corner. When Calvert-Lewin challenges for I think it's with Ruben Diaz in the first one. But you probably got to defend better that corner. I think the second phase of it, there was hit a few players, and Haaland's alone on his own in the box, and he does what he does best. He just smashed the ball into the net. After that, it was just difficult for Everton. Obviously, we tried a few things. We made a few subs. Onana came on. I thought he looked lively, always wanting the ball. Beto came on. Can he stay on side in one or two occasions and potentially get the goal, get the shot on target, or even the goal that he got disallowed? And then the second goal, you're going for the game, lose the ball in there, in our attacking third, and City just breaking Haaland. He's just an absolute beast. I think Branthwaite had a really good game. That just slaps of concentration for a split second. It's what happens in top games. But yeah, Everton played really, really well defensively. They were really solid, as we expected. They limited City to no opportunities really in the game. Apart from the 2 goals, he didn't really have many openings. So yeah, there is plenty of positives to take from Everton for that game. And I think the biggest positive for Everton was the weekend overall. Obviously, at the time recording, Crystal Palace haven't played yet. They played tonight against Chelsea. But that Luton game was one in the calendar. Everyone thought, ooh, could they get 3 points there? But we said last week, it's the first time they're expected to win in the Premier League. Could that pressure get them a bit? And it didn't. Then obviously Nottingham Forest at home to Newcastle. You thought, Newcastle's away form is dodgy. Forest at home, they got a good crowd, they got a good support, I'll get behind them. But it's a difficult game, Newcastle. But fortunately for Everton, they got away with 3 points, and Everton is still no worse or no better after last week. And I think we all would have took that last Monday, wouldn't we?
Yeah, would you agree with that, Lee? Do you think it was a positive weekend, if you want to call it that overall?
Yeah, it's frustrating, like I've said on a number of occasions, that we're even sat here talking about Everton in this situation. And if things would have gone a little bit differently, we wouldn't, and perhaps we shouldn't be. But here we are. And unfortunately, you are looking at results of teams that really shouldn't be comparing Everton to. If you look at our points return this season, we should be up 12th in the table, not really worrying. A bit of a boring season, which is what we've been craving for the last 2 or 3 years. Just a boring season where we're not stressed and losing sleep come February, March time. But yeah, a shock. I think I was expecting a bit of a hit this weekend, in all honesty. The Everton result is something separate. I think, as I say, a lot of us probably expected that. But the other games, I'm looking at Luton at home against Sheffield United, the run of form they're on. I'm thinking, the heavy favourites going into that. Again, I'm like, well, I fancied Forest to get something against Newcastle as well. Obviously, Palace have still got to play, but they're up against the rejuvenated Chelsea, who I fancy to probably do a number on them. Fingers crossed. So if that does go to plan, then yeah, it's a perfect weekend for Everton. And you've got to think that we've just come through a little mini run of very, very difficult fixtures on paper. And we've come out of it respectable. Maybe the point return 2 out of the 9 isn't what we would have hoped for. Maybe it was like 3 or 4 at a push. But in terms of performance levels and what we've seen, in addition to being depleted and having key players out, I think there's been enough to look at and be positive and think that we're going to be able to step now into a slightly kinder run of fixtures and hopefully get a decent point return and ease some of this tension and pressure around the club. And for us not to have to be looking around at some of the poor teams that you mentioned before we came on air today. So many poor teams in this Premier League. And, I'm not saying Everton are Real Madrid or Ajax from the 70s, far from it. But I think we're better than a number of teams, more than 3 teams in this division. It's just a case of taking our chances. But now, kind of run of fixtures ahead, getting players back in a nice, timely manner as well. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, it is a kind of run of fixtures ahead, but obviously the past fixtures, it's just 1 win and 11 now. Is there anything to really, obviously you're going to be concerned about it, but is there anything that's pressing? Is there any questions that need to be asked?
I think when you look at it, you'd worry when you see, 1 win and 11, that's not really good. But when you get into a bit more context and you look into it a bit further, you see, we played City twice, home and away. You played Tottenham twice. You played Aston Villa. You've gone away to Wolves at the end of the Christmas period, which is a hard game. You've gone away to Fulham and you've played with 1 central midfielder. So I think, all in all, it's obviously not really good that you've only got 1 win, but all things considered, it's not as bad as it looks.
And we're picking points up, at least.
Yeah, and we are picking points up, but at the same time, without the squad has been, and you haven't really gone deep into the relegation zone. Like, you haven't gone 5 points adrift or 6 points adrift. You're still within touch and distance of it, and obviously, with the appeal due to be decided at any time now, hopefully in the next week or so, you could really be out of the relegation zone without even playing. So I think 1 win 11 is worrying, and obviously we do need to start getting wins. But when you look at it in context, I think it's not as negative as it could potentially be.
Yeah, obviously the sort of a more favourable run of fixtures next. Obviously Palace, as we've discussed, then Brighton away, West Ham at home, and Man United away. So they're difficult, but how many points can you see us picking up from maybe 4 games?
I hate that question. You see it on Twitter and stuff, don't you? How many points from the next 4 games and all that? Listen, you don't know. You'd hope for at least 6. If we can take half of the points from that, it's all well and good saying, I want to take 9, 10 points. You've got to realise where we are and realistically what Everton are probably expected to achieve. A couple of wins out of them would be lovely. Better than, maybe 1 win and a draw, or 1 win and a couple of draws. 2 wins gives you the 6 points. And you can go into a fixture like Manchester United away, and they're very, very unpredictable, aren't they? And it's almost like you've took the pressure off and you can play with a little bit more freedom. When you're playing with more freedom, you often see better performances and confidence levels up. It's just important that we start putting some of these teams to bed at home that we're expected to win. And if you look at the next 2 at home, especially Palace and West Ham have just been snotted 6-0. So their confidence will be on the floor. You want to see a maximum point return at Goodison. Start translating some of these performances into results and wins. Don't really care how it happens. But he's got to find a way for Everton to start being a little bit more connected and a little bit more fluid in those attacking areas. The ball too often at the minute seems like a hot potato when it gets up there, and people aren't just letting the natural ability come through. Everything looks very contrived and very forced, quite clunky. It just needs to flow a little bit better. And I know that's hard when you're under the pressure and the circumstances that we're in, but that's where the management and the coaching staff have got to come in and find a way. Because there'll be an expectation. There'll be fans turning up at Goodison a week tonight and thinking, Palace at home, does it really come any easier than that on paper? probably not. I think on the balance of everything at the minute, they're probably the worst side on form in the Premier League, and they've also got a hell of a lot of key players out. So it's a massive golden nugget of an opportunity for Everton to really get back on track. And who knows, like Paul said, by then we may already have had another boost. And listen, you can't put a sort of a comment or a price on just how much of a boost that may be. You know, if things do go our way, and none of us know, but if it does go our way, imagine just that feeling that we're going to be going into the ground on Monday, perhaps being out of the relegation zone and stuff. So it's all got to unfold. You've got to win your home games, I think. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for the news off the pitch, but on the pitch, obviously Palace next. So obviously it's a must-win, really, isn't it? So how would you set up, first of all?
I think, obviously, all in all, expecting Abdoulaye Doucouré to be back involved. Amadou Onana probably comes into the 11. You probably think Everton's strongest 11 is back. For me, you probably go with the back four as normal. Maybe Coleman if Godfrey is still feeling a bit ill, or if he's not feeling fully up to it. And then you got that midfield three really picks itself of James Garner, Onana, and Abdoulaye Doucouré in front. And we can't, obviously we have mentioned before, but we can't express how important Abdoulaye Doucouré coming back into the team could be for Everton. He's been outstanding since Sean Dyche came in. He's been so important, so instrumental to everything we do. And we have missed him in this run of games, because you've got no one really linking that midfield and the attack, or even when we're getting balls wide, you've got no one to make late runs into the box. Calvert-Lewin, when he's nodding them down, or he's chesting them, or he's winning flick-ons, no one's running behind him, or no one's coming for the ball. So it's them situations where you really, really do miss Abdoulaye Doucouré, and to have him back, hopefully, by Monday, would be massive news for Everton, for how they set up, because then we can go a bit more attacking, we can go a bit more free on the ball, because we know that Doucouré is just going to run for everyone, really. He's going to be like that fair midfielder. And yeah, in terms of Palace, they've got a lot of key players out. Really disjointed fan base. The manager seems to be on his last legs in terms of the job. According to reports, nobody seems to be wanting to take that job. I think, don't know if it's Parish or the other ownership are looking to maybe get some investment or sell part of their share, but it is an opportunity where Everton have got to look and take all 3 points from home games, such as Palace and West Ham. Everton need to look to get 3 points in each of them, because West Ham, they're beatable. We have beat them already this season. They got tongue 6-0 yesterday at home by Arsenal. Although, yeah, Arsenal are a really, really, really good outfit, but
should be getting 6
to get done, I think it was 4-0 at half time. To be that 4-0 down at home at half time, it is a bit embarrassing for them. But yeah, Everton need to be free on the ball. Everton need to keep calm, get the first goal 100%, start strong, because first goal in Dyche games, we all know they are massive factors. And who knows, with Abdoulaye Doucouré back, I don't see no reason why Everton can't go and win 1, 2 or 3 games on the bounce right now.
Would you say you expect us to win 2 or 3 games, though?
I think with the evidence there, I would expect us to win 2 or 3 games on the bounce. I think we won 4 in December. Obviously, we were playing really, really good football. And since then, that's when Doucouré started to get injured. Obviously, went off at Burnley, came back, I don't know if it was Villa or Palace, the replay. Either of them two, I think it was, and he just played that game, and then he got injured in training and in the other leg, which was really, really unfortunate for us. But yeah, I would expect Everton to go and win 2 or 3 games in the bounce. I'd expect Everton to get something out of Brighton away. Seeing how we played away at Brighton last season and how we came up against them this season, I don't think they're as good as last year. They had a really good side. By then they'll have Simon Adingra back from the AFCON. Was watching the final. He was outstanding, really, really good talent. Mitoma's back. So yeah, they got a few players. Joao Pedro is a really good player. But the way Sean Dyche sets up, I think, counters how De Zerbi likes to play. And I think that's big for us. The way that we play is really kind of the Achilles for how Brighton like to play and how De Zerbi likes to set up. And if we get the first goal there again, we've got something to hold on for, and that's what this Everton team likes, to get a goal and then just sit in and try and break us down. We'll just heather everything away, or we'll block everything.
Yeah, I think from a Palace perspective as well, I think sort of the spine of their teams out really. Guehi, Elise, Eze, all key players for them. They all seemingly will be out injured. How big of an impact do you think that has on the belief of our team as well, really?
Well, you've only got to look at what's happened to us. Decore's our key man. We've only lost him, and look at the impact that it's had on Everton. So you'd argue that Everton have got a better team than Crystal Palace when we're full strength. So you take 3 of their main big hitters out, and it's massive, isn't it? It's massive for them, and they're feeling it on the pitch at the minute. Obviously, we all hope that. Well, I certainly hope that Roy Hodgson's still in the dugout at Goodison next week, because you don't want that dreaded new manager bounce.
Do you think they do sack him if they get beat tonight to Palace?
I don't know, because you'd have thought if you're getting hammered in your, well, it's not even a derby, is it? Let's be honest. Whoever called it a derby, but they got, was it 4-1 or 5-1? I can't remember, one of the two. Yeah. You'd think after that, how'd you survive that? Because there was a lot of noise and a lot of pressure after that game. The fans, he's lost the fans, and that's difficult when you lose the fans to sort of ever turn it round at a football club. But I think it might have happened by now, so you just don't know. But I think from Everton's point of view, you've got to, even if he does get the boot and there's someone else either temporarily or permanently in charge at Goodison next week, you've still got to be going into that fixture thinking, so, you know what I mean? Don't really care who's in the dugout. 11 against 11 with the players we've got coming back. You'd fancy ourselves against Crystal Palace, no matter who's doing the team talk before the game. So Everton have just got to silence all that out. That can become a little bit of a cliche, and it might, it starts swaying your thinking before you've stepped onto the pitch. Everton need to be professional, think, hang on. We fancy ourselves here. We're going up against a side that are really, really struggling. We're better than them, and we're going to prove it on the day. So I just think, forget what Palace are doing, the situation we're in. Everton on Monday have got to apply themselves, and we've got to get that result. It's massive that we win on Monday.
There's obviously another game at Goodison. The form hasn't been the best at all this season. What do you think maybe the reasons for that would have been? Because historically, we've always had good home form and poor away form, but it's been the opposite this season.
I think it's the way we play suits us more away from home. The way that we like to set up, maybe hit teams on the counter, sit deep, be solid, defend. It suits us to play away better, I feel, or to play bigger teams, if not at home, the likes of Tottenham, City, Arsenal, Liverpool. But also, the fact that we're not really good at chasing games and we have tend to go 1-0 down at home isn't really helpful. I think at the start of the season, at least, there was at least 3 or 4 games that we were 0-0 in the 65th minute, and we went on to lose all of them at home. I think it's when we've gone to try and push on and get a goal, we've then tended to concede the other way, and it's just not been possible for us to then turn it round. I'm not that worried over the home form. I think it will come. I think we have had solid performances at home. I think Tottenham were really good. I know we lost against United, but I think that first half we were really, really good. We should have been 2 or 3-1 up. Obviously, the Brighton game again, we were really good. We were really unfortunate not to get a win. Bournemouth, when we beat them, that was a real good performance. The cup games, we played really well. I think it's more of this team is missing too many chances at home. I don't think it's necessarily how we play. I think it's just also the amount of chances we miss at home are XG. There's probably especially Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and that chance against Villa comes to mind now, or the one against City. We need to start taking our chances at home. I don't know how, but we seem to be better finishers away from home than at home. So for me, it's not necessarily how we play or the form. It's just actually being quite unfortunate at home at times.
Yeah, I think what's going to have a big bearing on the fact our game is on a Monday. So by that time, Luton would have already played Man United. I think it's Brighton play Sheffield United, and then Burnley play Arsenal. So they're all tough games for them teams. So that gives a big emphasis on our players, I think. Yeah,
it could be 2 good weekends on the run, couldn't it? As we've just found out, though, sometimes football has got a funny way of surprising. It doesn't often go the way that you expect it to. But you'd like to think on paper, look at those fixtures. Everton could have a real, not that we need it, if we're honest, but we're real impetus going into Monday night, thinking, what a difference it could make looking at the league table if we were to pick 3 points up here. But the difference is here. We've had a really tough run. We're now coming up against a team that we fully expect to be in the league. Obviously, we've had Luton in the cup, which wasn't great, but we're up against a team that we're expected to beat and beat comfortably. So it's how we adapt to that. And if we were to concede the first goal, and as poor as Palace are, like we were saying earlier, it only takes a worldie, a free kick or a mistake or a set piece or whatever, and all of a sudden you could potentially in the Premier League against anyone find yourself a goal down. It's how do the fans react? How do the players react to that? Because it would be a big blow. You can almost see it now, the stuff and being knocked out of Goodison Park. But even in that scenario, we're talking about scenarios here. If that were to happen, you've still got to back yourself. You've still got, a side in front of you that you're fully capable of scoring 2 goals against. So if Everton go a goal down, we know we can't all just all of a sudden start thinking, oh, that's game over, because we're not playing Tottenham. We're not playing Aston Villa, for example. Really, really good, solid teams that you can expect to shut up shop. We're playing Crystal Palace. And, if as long as it's not, we go a goal down in the 85th minute, you'd like to think that we could still turn it around. But let's not think that way. Hopefully, if you look at our defensive record, it's up there with the very best in the division. And we've come up against the best opponents that you could probably, expect to come up against in recent weeks and acquitted ourselves very, very well. So we can repeat that. Barring bad luck, you'd like to think that we will get the first goal. And if we do, like Paul said, 2-3-0, we could run away with it.
Yeah. Do you want to give a prediction before we wrap up?
Not really, but I will. If you ask me to. Again, Palace.
Yeah.
Palace game.
Yeah.
I think it's massive. I think Decore back is huge. Onana, boss cameo at the weekend. Really, really looked good when he came on. It's got to end soon for Calvert-Lewin. Law of averages. I think is it 17, 18 now, but it's got to end soon. The longer you go, the closer you get to breaking your drought. So 3-0.
I admire the confidence. What about yourself, Paul? What do you think?
I'm going to go 3-0 myself, but
do it.
I'm gonna change. I like to be different. Everton 2-0 against Palace. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin will get on the score sheet, and Abdoulaye Doucouré will come back, and I think he'll get a goal, and I think he'll just be quite a relatively not easy day for Everton, but a day that we are professional and a game that we really do well in.
Yeah, it was nice to end on a positive note. So thanks a lot, Lee. Thanks a lot.
What's your prediction?
What's my prediction? I'll put me on the spot. I'm going to go for 1-0 Everton. I think Calvert-Lewin will score.
Take that.
Fingers crossed.
1-0, take it.
Yes, thanks Lee, thanks Paul, and thanks to the viewers at home. If you like the show, don't forget to go and subscribe over on Patreon and go and check out our website, www.bullensview.co.uk. Thanks a lot.